Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to solve what the heck is this thing? I'm kidding, it's a Square-1. It's called a Square-1. It's a very interesting, unique puzzle that turns nothing like this puzzle, the Rubik's Cube, because this has a lot of axes of motion. This one, not so many. So let's get right into this. Hi, this is me halfway through this guide. This is not meant to be a tutorial. I should have given this disclaimer earlier, but I'm putting it in the start of the video anyway. This is not a tutorial, it's just a guide. And if you want to see how I got here, stay tuned. So the Square-1's a really interesting puzzle, and it has very, very weird cuts, as you can see. And you know, you can't really move it on everything. Like if I try moving the puzzle like this, it does not move because that's like a solid bar. So the middle layer consists of these two blocks, these giant blocks, that effectively slice the Square-1 into two halves, this one and this one. So now there's two halves for the Square-1. Now you know how a Square-1 turns, only along this slice. That's the only way to turn the puzzle in this axis. So in the other axes, you can move them like this, simply the same as your 3x3. The way you scramble a Square-1 is also weird. You might have seen a scramble like this one, and if you haven't, that's totally fair. It's very weird. It looks like coordinates, and it kind of, well, no, it's not really coordinates. It's kind of like motions. So each edge piece is worth 1 unit, let's just say, and each corner piece is worth 2 units. So if a scramble, particular part of a scramble says like 3, 2, you would move 3 clockwise on the upper layer, so that's 1 edge and 1 corner, and 2 clockwise on the bottom layer, which is 1 corner. So, and then you would slice. So the slices are represented by front slashes. Are they front slashes or back slashes? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's scramble this thing and see how Speedcubers solve the Square-1. So the first step in solving the Square-1 is to make it the shape of a cube. This is familiar to us. This is not. So the way we do that is normally by having, we have different shapes on the Square-1. It has nothing to do with 3x3. Let me put that aside. So yeah, you have different shapes and you manipulate these shapes to try and make the Square-1 the shape of a cube. So in this case, I would probably do something like this. I can't really explain why I'm doing this, but this is a standard shape. So this is called a scallop and this is called a kite. There's a million, there's not a million, like a few different shapes out there. There's like scallop, muffin, barrel, pawn, kite, square, shield. There's probably some I'm missing as well. Fist. There's a lot. So like there's a bunch of different cube shape cases. So yeah, if you make a scallop kite, it's kind of nice because you can solve this pretty easily into a square, and now it's a cube. The shape is a cube shape. So that's great. So surely now we can solve it like a Rubik's Cube. Well, that's where you would be wrong. So in this particular video, I'm going to be showing you how people solve this with the Lin method, which I believe is one of the nicest methods to do on the Square-1. I say this without learning CSP or any of the advanced methods, but I really like this method. And the reason for that is it resembles Roux on the 3x3. So if you don't know what Roux is a method where you solve two parallel blocks instead of like cross pieces. So I'm really bad at Roux, but I'm going to try. Like this is one block, for example. And then the other block would be something like this. That's such a bad case. Look at where that edge is. But I hope you get the idea. So basically now I've solved these two parallel blocks. I don't need to solve any of these edges. And then you solve the corners of the top layer. And then permute the corners. So I'm going to do that. So now basically all the corners in the cube are solved and you're left with just one thing for the last layer, which is just the edges, right? So it's like L6E, last 6 edges of the cube. It's similar in the Square-1. So the first thing you do is you make the left block. So I see these two blue corners and this blue edge. I can just do this to now pair them. So yeah, after solving the left block, I want to solve the right block. So this was blue, so I'm going to look for green. I see it here and this corner. So I'm just going to do that quite simply. And so the next step is to solve this back edge. And the way you do that, well, normally you'd have it out here somewhere. So you'd have these two blocks, right? Like I just showed you. And this is the orange. So you solve this into the back with what they call an M2. And M2 in Square-1 is just 1, 0, slice, -1, -1, slice, 0, 1. That's an M2. So yeah, you just do that. You solve the back. And now you have this edge and the rest of the cube to solve. So then you do this thing called CP plus DF. So the DF is unsolved and the CP has to be done for the top layer. That's corner permutation. And the way you do that is you make sure that the unsolved piece is in the front, and then you do one alg. There's only 6 cases, so it's not that hard. This is why I like Lin. And you keep this edge usually on the left, the unsolved edge, and you look at where the headlights are. If there's no headlights, of course, it's a different alg, but here the headlights are on the left, so you can just do an alg. And the alg basically solves DF, and it solves your corner permutation. In this case, I've got a Z-perm, which is very easy, unlike the 3x3, where this is the Z-perm. So as you can see, it's quite similar. It is the same. It's the same permutation of edges. But the difference is on 3x3, this is the alg, which is quite long. But on the Square-1, it's just this. That's it. Like the puzzle's solved. But yeah, it's very unlikely that you'll always get Z-perms. These are the easiest, one of the easiest PLLs on the Square-1. But yeah, basically the idea here is that you do an M2 here, this goes here. You do another M2 to get it to this spot where it belongs. And then you do one last M2 from the original spot to solve that. That's pretty much it. So that's a Square-1 solved, guys. Like, I realize that this puzzle is really complicated, but I hope you realize that it's also not that hard to solve if you know what you're doing. Now, of course, it can be daunting initially, and there's definitely cases like the one I'm setting up right now, like this. These are parity cases. For example, let me solve that. So this is a case you'll never have on the 3x3. Physically impossible. It's just these two swapped. Parity is possible on cubes like even ordered n by n's, like 4, not 2x2. 2x2 is parity in itself, but no, 4x4, 6x6, and so on. So the way you solve parity is by learning an algorithm. It's really hard to do this intuitively. I'm sure there's someone out there who's done it, but I could not. I'm just not smart enough. So yeah, it's a pretty long algorithm, but once you get used to things like this, like, it's not that hard. It's pretty easy to solve this puzzle, and you might have different permutations of the top layer, but yeah, they're all pretty straightforward to solve once you know how to solve them. So that's how you solve a Square-1. I hope that was fun to watch. Let me know if you want me to share some solves. I've been doing a lot of solves recently because I've been learning a lot of Cubeshape cases. I'm pretty much done with Cubeshape. I just have a few cases where my finger tricks are kind of bad, so yeah, that's it for this video though. So I hope it was fun. Let me know if you want me to drop any algs or make a real tutorial. I intend to make a tutorial eventually for Lin, but I just don't think I'm good enough yet. So yeah, for reference, my average is about 18 to 20 seconds, and that's not great. Like, let's be real. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Peace.